Hello. Okay, so we're live. Welcome to Curtin's second live webinar on going places with a Curtin degree. So my name is Jane. I'll be your host and also your moderator for today. And I am president of Curtin Alumni in Malaysia chapter. It's been a fun ride. And this time round, I don't have my partner, but I do have my graduation bear. If you were here and you watched the last session, you've seen him. So he graduated with me. I bought him when I did the summer graduation in Perth. So, well, the fun part about graduating from Curtin University is Curtin actually brings us to many places, and I think it's very nice to hear different stories from different alumni. And as you know, Curtin Malaysia is the largest international campus of Curtin. Established in Malaysia since 1999, it's 21 years in Malaysia this year. So we actually study the same course, the same curriculum as the students in the main campus in Perth and other Curtin campuses. The study materials, the academic calendar, and the exams are also identical. Same quality, but of course with a more affordable fees in Malaysia. So people, if you choose to study at Curtin Malaysia, you can transfer to study abroad later. You have opportunities to transfer to 5 main campuses, which is Perth, and our branch campus in Singapore, Dubai, or Mauritius, right? On student exchange or transfer to complete your degree. So, or you can do what I did. I studied 3+0 in Malaysia, and I graduated in summer graduation in Perth. So, if you're watching, please share this live video and comment #MakeTomorrowBetter to stand a chance to win a limited edition laptop bag, a limited edition Curtin laptop bag. So one lucky winner will be announced at the end of the session. Okay, so when I went to Perth for summer graduation, and then this year I actually went to Miri. And I need to tell you that Miri and Perth, well, the campuses look almost identical. So I think it's a very nice, Perth in Malaysia experience if you were to study in Curtin, Malaysia at Miri. Okay, and today our guest is Thomson Ch'ng. He's an award-winning international alumnus and a world-renowned youth diplomat. He has a Master of Science in Project Management, and he graduated in 2016. Thomson is a founding member of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Youth Action Hub, and a co-convener of the ASEAN Australian Education Dialogue, AAED. So ASEAN Australian Education Dialogue is like a track 2 diplomacy platform that strengthens Australia's education and trading relationship with the key stakeholders in the ASEAN region. He advises a range of education and training institutions, governments, NGOs, and media groups in relation to Australia and ASEAN education activities. And in 2016, Thomson was a special advisor to the Malaysian Consulate and Education Malaysia Australia in Sydney on Malaysia's education engagement with Australia while serving as the regional vice president at the Jakarta-based ASEAN Youth Organization. In 2018 and 2019, Thomson served as a special advisor to a member of Legislative Assembly in Penang. And just another tip for you, Thomson also co-drafted the Youth Declaration on Quality Education, which was presented at the high-level official meeting of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development 2016 in Nairobi, Kenya. So he has received numerous awards, and most recently he has been selected as finalist for the Pioneer International Alumni of the Year Award. And last year, in 2019, he was also the Distinguished Young Australian Alumni of the Year. So without further ado, we actually put together this really interesting video. So let's look at the video and then we'll have a chat with Thomson.
Hello everybody, my name is Thomson Ch'ng. I'm an alumnus of Navitas Curtin University, graduate of 2016. I'm originally from Penang, Malaysia. I embarked on my international education journey in Sydney, Australia in 2009, where I was a founding delegate and a national president of the Council of International Students Australia, Australia's peak body for more than 500,000 of international students studying in Australia. I lost my mum when I was young, and I experienced depression and isolation. It took me a few years to recover, but the opportunity to embark on the international education journey has been one of the turning points in my life. Since young, I've been taught by my late mum to give back to the society. And I was blessed that through my role as a special officer to a member of the Legislative Assembly in Penang, Malaysia, I was able to play a part in assisting the local member to address some of the challenges faced by the constituency. Kenya was the first African country that I visited, thanks to the opportunity from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and the support from the Malaysian Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Vice Chancellor's Office of Curtin University. As what the late Nelson Mandela said, the education is the most powerful tool to change the world. I'm committed to the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly goal number 4, which is on quality education. As a proud product of both Malaysian and Australian education system, I will continue to give back and pass on my knowledge and experience to the younger generation. A true global citizen is somebody who is not just committed to the Sustainable Development Goals, but to actually powerfully understand challenges and issues locally and globally, but more importantly, to take actions and create positive changes.
So he has this fantastic opportunity to connect the local with the global, and he does that magnificently.
He's from a good place in the way that he interacts with people. He's respectful of people, and he's thoughtful about how to get a good outcome from interactions between different organisations.
He is someone who is very determined, and that he was a change agent.
I'm inspired by the slogan of Curtin University, which is to make tomorrow better. This is the value that has been embedded in me since day one I studied at the university. I will continue to do what I can, and I hope that you can join me to make this world a better place for everybody.
Hi, Thomson. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing very well, Jane. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show or coming on this particular webinar.
It's good. It's
How's
sunny
Sydney?
day today. It's really, really hot. It feels like Malaysia at certain points. That makes me miss home a little bit more. But otherwise, it's good.
Right. Okay, fantastic. So first and foremost, congratulations on being a finalist for the Pioneer International Alumni Awards.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit more, like what's this awards all about, and what's being a nominee mean to you?
It's interesting when you ask this, Jane, because I recall the time when I was being asked and encouraged by my friends to actually put up the nomination to nominate myself for this award. And I was really hesitant because I know that this is going to be a very competitive award. So the Pioneer Award is actually an award program by the Pioneers, stands for the Professional in International Education. It's based in the UK. And the International Alumni of the Year Award is a global award for international alumni to compete globally. So it's not just Malaysia, Australia, but actually around the globe. So it is a very, really competitive award. And I was really glad to be able to shortlist it as a finalist.
And you are the only Malaysian and also the only Australian university alumni. So I think that's like a double win for all of us.
It does, and it feels great to be able to proudly represent Australia and also Malaysia through my alma mater, of course, Curtin University, but the fact that my country of origin is Malaysia, so I'm very, very pleased and honored.
So can you share with us a bit about your experience as a Curtin student? Like, how significant was it in shaping your life and your outlook today?
The key thing about being an alumnus of Curtin, but more importantly, a student, or what I always call a product of that particular university, is that platform for you to succeed. But of course, my experience was slightly different from many others because I actually went to a pathway institutions of Curtin University for my first year of study before I actually go to Australia to continue my second and my third year of my bachelor degree, by the way, and after that, master degree, all with Curtin
And you were
University.
in Sydney, right?
I was, and I was. Well, it's interesting because I think that makes a lot of difference when you actually do that. And I got a scholarship for my master degree, and that's why there was a decision for me to continue to study as well with Curtin.
Wow, that's fantastic. Like graduates at Curtin Malaysia are awarded the same internationally recognized degree certificates as graduates at our main campus and all other Curtin campuses. And did you know that Curtin University has over 230,000 graduates worldwide to date? So we actually have a huge family.
That's massive. I mean, one of the, I guess, the good thing about being part of this global family is the abundance of opportunities for you to connect with one another, and I'm really proud to be this global network.
Wow. So we see that you have received a long list of awards and honors over the years, like starting from 2011, if I'm not wrong. You had like the first award was the winner of the Testimonial Australia Gold Award, and then winner of the New South Wales International Student of the Year Award in 2013, and then recipient of New South Wales Police Outstanding Contribution to International Students 2015. There's so many awards that you have. Wow. So, like, what is your key motivation in getting all these awards?
Let me say, Jane, that I think the motivation for me wasn't about getting the awards, but it was more about that sense of satisfaction that you have achieved when you have done something positive to contribute to the life of the community. And this is something that I've always said that you can't buy with money or with cash, because that sense of satisfactions when you have helped others, that just kept me addicted, I have to say, because once you have done one, and the second one, the third one, then you just continue. So I've been doing that since my student days, and I continue to do that after my study as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. So nowadays, like SPM leavers can start with 1-year foundation as a pathway of direct entry to the degree courses. Well, I did from 6 before my Curtin journey. So yours, you mentioned that you did a pathway as well before you went over to Sydney, right? So what made you choose Curtin for your further education? And was there anything that made the university stand out from the rest?
Sure. One thing that I remember very fondly until today was the fact that my education counselor at my college at that point of time, who has provided me with the advice in terms of what are the courses and possible institutions or university that I can choose to further my education. And one of the things that really, I guess, made me remember very fondly was the fact that Curtin University offers practical courses, because I was actually after business courses or business degrees. And I know that a great quality business qualification is where the university are able to offer you that practical experience. And Curtin University is obviously one of the technology group, or what they call ATN, the Australian Technology Network, which actually the evidence and advantages of offering practical courses and knowledge to people.
Right. So did you know that Curtin University is ranked the top 1% of universities worldwide in the academic ranking of the world universities, like in 2019? So it's something for us to be really proud of. Tell us about your current career. Did having a Curtin education and degree have a significant impact in your career path?
My current career is in the education and training sector. which is something that I have always been really passionate about because, since young, I have been taught by my late mom that education is so important, and this is evidence in her nurturing in her children on emphasizing on education. And I might say that education is not just about the academic part of things, but also the curriculums, the skills that you can learn. And one of the things that I've been very much involved in when I was a student time was in the International Student Council, which is the Council of International Students Australia, the big body that represents over 500,000 of international students in Australia. And I was one of the founding delegates and also the president of the council back then. And that obviously has generated the interest for me to continue to get involved in education. And I'm currently doing a consulting role with an Australian corporate advisory firm focusing or specializing in Australia's education relationship with Southeast Asia.
Wow, fantastic. And during those days, you mentioned that you did like a video or a campaign, right? It's called My Australian Story. Did I get it right?
That's correct.
All right. So do we have the video? Can we watch the video? I think it's interesting.
There are about 500,000 international students in Australia. Each of them has a story to tell. Here are some of them.
I'm not Australian.
I'm not an Australian.
I'm not an Australian.
I'm not Australian. I'm not Australian.
So many things to do and say, but I can't seem to find my way. But I wanna know how. I know I'm meant for something else, but first I gotta find myself. But I don't know how. Oh, why do I reach for the stars when I don't have wings that carry me that far? Gotta have roots before branches to know who I am before I know who I wanna be, and faith to take chances, to live like I see a place in this world for me.
But I have an Australian story.
But I have an Australian story.
But I have a Australian story.
But I have an Australian story.
Sometimes I don't wanna feel and forget the pain is real.
Wow, that's an amazing video. For those of you who are watching right now, thank you so much for watching, and please help share this live video and comment #MakeTomorrowBetter. Stand a chance to win a limited edition Curtin laptop bag. So one lucky winner will be announced at the end of this session. So Thomson, every one of us who has graduated with a degree from an Australian university has an Australian story. So what's yours?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's a very, very important question, Jane. And my Australian story is, in fact, a global story. And as you can tell from that video that you have shown earlier, students in Australia, particularly international students, come from all over the world, from Asia to Africa to Europe to Latin America.
Basically everywhere. Yeah.
It is a very, very diverse story, diverse friendship that I've able to make as a result of the Curtin qualification, being an international campus in Australia. And I must say that life is not always a smooth sailing. And I think let's be really real here, because there are always be challenges, particularly when you study overseas and you have to travel and leave your home, or what you could say your comfort zone. For some of us, probably the very first time in their life, that itself is a very big step, because you have to overcome cultural barriers, language barriers, which is why I think
loneliness, right? You have to overcome loneliness.
Yes. So for me, when you ask about my story, I think the first year was not just the first thing is most important thing is actually to survive, I suppose, if I can use that word.
Yes. That's a good word.
Yeah, because we talk about loneliness, but also I think the mental health side of things,
Yeah.
because it's either you make it or break it. And I've seen really there are students who had enormous
Couldn't
challenges,
cope, right?
couldn't talk, and which is why support services in university is important, like counseling advice, and it is important for students to access that. But I just wanted to point out the fact that having just look at my journey was when I went to the first year was with a partner institutions of Curtin University locally in
Right.
Malaysia.
Right.
It
In
was
Penang, right?
it was in Penang, but it's quite far away from where I'm
Right.
living. So I
Because you
actually
were from like the mainland, right?
correct. Well, it's not that far. It's just that if you have to travel all the way, to the island, and it take about
It's still quite a distance, to be
quite a
fair.
distance every day.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've done was I actually stay at the hostel,
All
and
right.
I still remember the first time when I was living in the hostel. My first night, I was literally tearing because
Right.
I felt like I lost my home. It's time
Right.
first time sleeping outside of my house. And
Right.
imagine if I haven't done that experience, and if I went straight to
Oh,
Australia,
yes. You'll be
that would have.
cold and you'll be miserable and you'll be more alone, right?
So and I think which is why having multiple campuses like Curtin University, there was something that I'm really impressed with Curtin was you can choose the locations and the campuses, and tailor that to your experience, because I do believe
Right.
that every campus offers different experiences, and of course Curtin University Malaysia has that experience to offer as well.
Yeah, because I think it's also at Miri, and you could actually stay at a hostel at Miri. It's almost the same, but you're nearer to home if you're Malaysian, so you can still go back home. It's
Yeah.
not that hard. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So now there's like movement control order here in KL. How has COVID-19 impacted you so far? Did it impact you at all? You were one of the lucky ones who got to fly back to Australia, right?
Mm. Well, I guess COVID-19 impacts everyone. It's just, in what way it has impacted you. And I think the important part about this whole thing was to be really, really resilient about things. I mean, for Australia's case, and well, I'm in Sydney, but you would have already heard about the news in Melbourne where, they're in lockdown at the moment.
Yeah,
So
you can't cross to
exactly.
different, yeah.
You can't cross border. You have to stay at home. There are curfew of at a
It's
certain
like
time.
our MCO. We had
Exactly.
that too.
Yeah. So it's a very stressing moment at this point of time for everyone, whether it is professional life, and I know that there are people who lost their job as well as a result of this.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that we have to deal with it together and seek for support as well if you need to. And I think the Australian government also ran a campaign for hashtag in this together in the beginning
Right.
of the year. And that was done
Yes.
by the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, Austrade, through
Right.
their Lead in Australia Education Division. So at the end of the day, this is a very interesting time that we are all dealing with. And can I say that I do feel those of you who have kind of just graduated, whether it is last year or recently, because this is probably the very tough time for you to enter into a job market. And we have to really sometimes know how to, what I always say, play smart in terms of thinking about what your experience in your university has provided you with that competitive advantage, and then you can compete with others with that as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, this is like such a big opportunity, in sense that the whole world is on, say, lockdown together, right? What's the odds? And also today, technology is so advanced, like even say maybe 15 years ago, if you were to leave to a different country, remember you need to go get a calling card and then you can only call a landline because you can't call a mobile phone at all. And today you can even do like free WhatsApp calls, right? So many different options. I think times have changed. I think we shouldn't look at all the things that we don't have. Might as well we start looking at all the things that we do have, and then let's focus on hashtag making tomorrow better, right?
Yeah, I think if I can add to that, the key words here is that how do we turn crises into opportunities? That's what they say.
Right.
So
Yes.
we have to look into the crisis from a very positive angle. I know that it's hard, it is challenging, but hey, you know, your Australian story, for those of you who have won, one of the biggest lessons from that is, you know, it has taught you to be really resilient in dealing with life challenges. So I think we should continue to remember that. But more importantly, you know, we have to continue to seek help if you need to.
Yeah, constantly improve ourselves, right? That's the best way to go.
That's right.
So Thomson, you have been described as a youth diplomat. So tell us a little bit about that. What does being a youth diplomat mean to you?
So in 2016, I was very honored and lucky to be selected by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to represent Malaysia and ASEAN. For those of you who don't know, ASEAN is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations region, which is the Southeast Asia region, to attend the first ever, what they call the inaugural youth forum in Nairobi in Kenya. And thanks to the support given by the Malaysian Ministry of Youth and Sports and also the Curtin University Vice Chancellors, the then Vice Chancellors, Professor Deborah Terry's office, I was able to attend the conference. So I went there for the first time in my life in Kenya.
Wow, how is that experience like?
You know, we've always seen Africa through the lenses of television, social media, and media. But to be there for the very first time, you know, that was the moment that I will always treasure. I remember for the first time well, because it was I remember it was the UN, United Nations conference, so the security was really tight. So for the first time in my life, walking out from the airport, there are armies everywhere.
Wow.
And I suddenly felt very privileged because, you know, you only have armies when there are high officials visited. But it is a high official event because it's a United Nations event. But because the youth forum is part of that high level officials event, so we can experience that interesting experience. And obviously, you experience the culture and the life. But we made some amazing, interesting friends from around the world. These are inspiring 200 over young leaders come from all across the world to meet in Nairobi in Kenya. So it was a great experience.
I think one of the other things about doing university in this era is that we get to keep in touch with our friends very easily. You know, just connect on Facebook, and then you get to keep abreast of whatever their activities are. You don't have to talk to them; you just have them on Facebook, right? So you can just stalk them later, kind of thing. And can you imagine, like, even say 15, 20 years ago, you don't even have that, right? So I think today we're quite privileged in a sense. You know, technology has been our friend, and I think it's much easier to keep in touch with like your different friends from all over the world. Would you say?
Which is why it's very important to turn that into the advantages. And I see many young entrepreneurs who have come out from this. We live in what we call gig economy, Jane. So gig economy obviously is an economy that is being described by many experts as something that is more flexible, much more short term. And I think, you know, companies like Uber, Airbnb, you know, these are platforms for people who really, you know, make some living through flexibility as well. And I think we have to really recognize that context as particularly for young person who are considering to do a degree or look into your further education. That is an important element to consider.
Right, fantastic. So you have you have co-drafted the Youth Declaration on Quality Education, which was presented at the high-level official meeting of UNCTAD at Nairobi. So who were your collaborators on that document, and what was it like presenting it at such a high-level meeting?
So, as I said earlier, 200 over young leaders from across the world, we were being broken up into three different groups. And first group was on quality education. The second group was on the theme of more and better job. And the third theme or third group was on state accountability. I was lucky to be selected to be the coordinator for the first group, which is the quality education group, which is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm privileged to be collaborating with young leaders who has that background and knowledge. I remember that one of the young leaders that was collaborating was actually an advisor to an education minister in India. So I obviously worked with him and get some fantastic ideas. And we put that into documents, and we kind of presented that and compiled that into the youth declarations, and then the youth had to have the opportunity to present that at the final high-level official meetings.
Interesting. So you were already very active in various causes during your university days. Like, for those of you who are watching and you are still in university, how did you manage your commitments to these endeavors and your studies at the same time?
Yeah, I must say that this is a very good question, Jane, because it reminded me of when I was in my student days, and I was really active in student councils and student associations and all these things, you know. And my dad was asking me, so why are you doing all these things? I mean, this is not, you're not generating income from this, and
Not yet.
is that going to affect your study? You know, so obviously, you know, parents are worried, and I was a little bit dilemma. I was questioning myself as well, but I continue to do that just because of the obvious reason that I've mentioned early on in the beginning of this interview, which is that the sense of satisfaction that you can get out of doing all the community work, and that has really pushed me further. And because I wanted to help others, and I remember that you know I told myself that I'm going to make sure that I don't obviously fail my subject, and obviously I try to succeed and get as many distinctions as possible. But if I don't get that, that's not the end of the day, because I know that sometimes you have to sacrifice. If you don't put your 100% in your study, then what if you put at least some time in your study, but make sure that you don't fail terribly, or then at least you gain something out of not being in Australia, but just going to classes and go back to study. But you actually make the full use out of the time in Australia. I mean, you're already here in a foreign country. I mean, why don't you make full use of the time here, right? And get the most experience out of it. So that was my motivation, and which is why I continue to do that. But it's a bit challenging, I have to say, particularly meeting assignment deadlines. At the same time, trying to manage my work and my voluntary work with the student council. But
Right.
I'm glad that was part of my experience.
Wow. So I think you've received quite a lot of perks during your time as a Curtin student, right? The scholarship, and then your tour. You know, what do you think are, in your opinion, what do you think are the other perks of being a Curtin student?
The other perks of the
Yeah.
Curtin students,
Of being a
well,
Curtin student.
well, you see, there are just too many of them. But if I can choose one of the most important one, is I think that sense of belonging that you feel as part of that Curtin community, that makes a lot of difference. Because again, speaking as a student, as a foreign international student studying in Australia, you need to have that sense of belonging with that community, and we're talking about the Curtin community when you are studying. And thankfully, it's very supportive staff members, whether it is from a very high level all the way to the campus director, to the senior executive staff, and to the academic staff, the lecturers, and the support staff. I remember that one of my first fond memories was to actually go to get help to do assignment. I mean, it's interesting because it's not your first time in your life doing assignment, but doing assignment in Australia may be quite different from the way how you do assignments back in your country. So that
Correct.
itself, I would say is something that that has given me that I consider that as a perk because I think not many institutions actually do that correctly, but Curtin actually has offered that services and they've done that pretty well.
Wow. Okay, so we have a question. Is Curtin's employability the best in Western Australia, in your opinion? Edward, he's asked this question. Well, I think Curtin, if let's say you graduate from Curtin, the employability even in Malaysia is much higher. What do you think?
Well, I'll just say that Curtin employability is probably one of the best in the world. Um,
Mm.
I wouldn't say the best because that's not very diplomatically correct to say that you're the best. And you wouldn't want to offend somebody out there as well. But I would say that certainly, I mean, I've gone through the bachelor degree myself, and I've done the master program, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing at the moment with my career and also my work that is specializing and enhancing Australia's education relationship with Southeast Asia. And can I say that those of you who are watching here, whether you're a student and also or alumnus or alumni of Curtin University, all of you here, you carry that Australian brand with you, whether or not you actually have been to study in Australia, because Curtin University itself, it is an Australian brand. And obviously, for those of you who do not know the history, Curtin was named after one of the former Prime Minister of Australia, John Curtin. So it is a very prestige brand and a prestige Australian brand. So I
Right.
think that is something that all of us should be really proud of.
Fantastic. We have another question from Katerina. She says, are you planning to come back to Malaysia for good and spread your wings here?
Well, I've been coming back and forth from Australia to Malaysia partly because of my role. But actually, I've spent my last 4 years in Malaysia. That was right after my graduations. And I was working on a number of roles, including one of the roles, which was a special officer to one of the politicians, the member of the Legislative Assembly in the state of Penang, Malaysia. So I have been spending quite a bit of time in Malaysia, and I'll continue to do so whenever time allows. But I'm sure that because of my role specializing in Australia's relationship with Southeast Asia, which includes Malaysia, I hope that because of one of the things that I'm always trying to do is to enhance the quality of education in Southeast Asia, including in my home country, Malaysia. And the way to do that is actually to have that collaboration and partnership. And I'm referring to specifically cross-border partnership with a country like Australia to enhance that quality of education. Because if you want a country to be succeeding, you need to first enhance the quality of its education. And through project or partnership projects with Australia or with other cross-border countries, you can actually achieve that.
And I think you mentioned before previously, you can take a Malaysian out of Malaysia, but you can never take the Malaysian out of the Malaysian.
Well, I still have my Malaysian flag at the back of my
Yeah, I
screen.
see that. I actually do see that. Well done.
And that reminded me that the phrase that you mentioned is something is so true, and it's somebody who actually told me that. I remember it was one of the somebody who works in the Malaysian consulate in Sydney many years ago. But it's so true because we Malaysian when we go out to other countries, one thing that you're always passionate about is the food of Malaysia. That's something
Yeah.
in your DNA. You can't take that out of you. And that's why there are so many Malaysian restaurants in Australia now, including in Sydney. That's because there are demand there. So Malaysians spread their love through food because our food is just one of the best in the world. And it's not just me being biased, being a Malaysian who say that, but it's people from other countries who actually say that as well. So I'm very proud of the fact that we carry that Jalo Gemilang, the Malaysian flag, wherever we go.
Yes.
And it's so true that you can take a Malaysian out of Malaysia, but you can never take the spirit of Malaysia out of a Malaysian.
Yes, I think that's fantastic. I do remember friends like from even 20 years ago when we were at Australia, and then he tells me, I want to eat roti canai. I was like, you're willing to pay $7 for roti canai? Whoa.
Well, people pay for
That
that
was
crave, right? Because when you're craving for something so much, and then they're just like, whatever, I'm just going for that. And guess
yeah,
what?
I'm just gonna pay seven, Aussie dollars for it.
Yeah. But guess what? Teh tarik, a hot cup of teh tarik fits in really well, especially during a cold winter day in Australia.
Wow, yes, I think it does. All right. So, well, this is our last shout out to share this live video and comment Make Tomorrow Better to stand a chance at winning a limited edition Curtin laptop bag. So one lucky winner will be announced at the end of this session. So Thomson, I remember you saying that one of the reasons why you stuck at it and pulled through your time in Australia was because you wanted to improve yourself and learn English. Could you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, because I remember back in my primary days, my primary school and secondary school, I was studying at, my primary school was Chunghua Butterworth, Chunghua Pusat Butterworth, and my secondary school was Chungling Butterworth. So it's a Chinese vernacular school where obviously we have to learn 3 languages. And it's so hard to actually learn 3. Well, learning 3 languages is one thing, but trying to masterize all 3 languages is so hard. And obviously, we even though we learn English, but we communicate a lot in Mandarin with friends and with family. So
Right.
one of the key challenges when I first arrived in Australia is actually to understand the accents of the lecturers, particularly when they speak. So I must admit that I find difficulties and I hardly understand what the lecturers were saying when I first go to classes during my first semester. It was really tricky. So I told myself that, look, I got to fix this. I got to, in order to succeed in Australia, you have to be first succeed in your English language proficiency. So I need to polish that up. What I've done
Right.
was to watch the Australian Parliament question time because I have a liberal interest in politics as well. And that normally
Wow.
happens between Monday to Thursday, whenever there's a Parliament sitting at 2
Right.
o'clock local time. So I'll make sure that I got home, class finished at 1 o'clock. So I make sure that I got home within an hour and sit in front of the TV and watch the parliamentarians, the Prime Minister, the ministers talking because that's one of the ways to learn English is by actually watching and listening. So of course that would kind of enhance your listening and speaking skills. But on the reading and writing skills, that's where I remember that I actually subscribed to a local newspaper because you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not just to learn English, but you also get to know a little bit of what is happening around you, particularly in Australia. So
Right.
I think I was quite determined enough to do that for a couple of years, and that really paid off. I inspired myself. I pushed myself to do that. I remember the first week I arrived in Sydney. I walked to Darling Harbour. I looked over to the other side of the harbour. I saw tall buildings in Sydney, tall multinational companies and offices around. And I told myself that I'm just good. I wanted to be there one day. I wanted to be working inside there one day, and that was my
Right.
push and I determined to do so, and that's why I continue to drive myself out of that comfort zone.
And well done to you because right now, where the whole world is watching, you are at Sydney. So I think this should be a good testimony and achievement to you. So well done. Well done.
Thank you, and I just wanted to also say a big thank you to each and every one of the friends and family who have played a significant role in our journey because I don't think it's fair to say that we won't be where we are today without the support and the role that our friends and family and colleagues have played in our lives. So, whatever you face, do not give up. I like people to say no to me. I like rejections, and I know that one of the common things that you will face, particularly the students and graduates, is you will face rejection when you look for jobs, right? So take that as an inspiration. Make rejection your good friend, but more importantly, don't particularly to students when you're studying. This is the best time for you to make mistakes because the more mistake you make, this is how you actually learn. And of course, remember that and to repeat that. Right? I'm not saying that you keep making mistakes and keep doing it, but learn from the
Well,
mistake.
as long as you improve, right? As long as you keep improving from your
Right.
mistakes. And I think,
That's
like you
right.
said, the resilience is very important. The resilience, the determination, like set a goal and then believe in it. And yeah, you can achieve whatever you set out to achieve, right?
That's right. Yes, yes. And just don't just aim to meet the expectation, but also aim to exceed the expectation. I mean, just take your example. If you aim for, I don't know about your experience, but my experience is when I aim for, let's say, 80 marks. Sometimes you get 75 marks or 70 marks. But let's say if you just aim for pass 50 marks, then of course you will fail, right? But if you always must aim higher and try to exceed the expectation. This is not secret of success. This is an open secret, and I think that is the mantra that all students should remember.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I think we have a winner here for our limited edition laptop bag. Our winner is Mr. Edward Yong. Hi, Edward. Thank you so much for being so interactive with us. So Curtin Malaysia will be in contact with you for your prize. Thank you so much for watching and thank you so much for being, a part of this. Last parting words, Thomson.
Yeah, I would just say that at the end of the day, there's no difference between me and with you and with everyone else and your family, your friends. We are all human beings. We face different difficulties, and when you do, just tell yourself that tomorrow is just going to be a better day. Just like what the Curtin slogan is, we will continue to make tomorrow better. And this is so true because we have a long, particularly to young students, we have a very very long road and long journey ahead of you. So you must continue to strive to be excellent. So I think that's the word. Strive for excellence, right? Strive for
Correct.
excellence, and don't give up. And I think you will hit to where you are and you achieve your success. Just one last thing, Jane. I just wanted to take this opportunity because it's the Malaysia Day in a couple of days' time, the 16th of
Yes,
September.
16 of
September. So I know that apart from the fact that it is a public holiday, which is something that everyone in Malaysia loves, but I just wanted to wish all our Malaysian friends, particularly to our friends in Miri, in Sarawak, because this day is a special day to commemorate the Federation of Malaysia in 1963, where we included Sabah and Sarawak into the federation. So, and obviously Curtin University Malaysia is based in Sarawak. So I just wanted to say selamat menyambut Hari Malaysia to all Malaysians, and stay safe, stay healthy, and practice social distancing.
Yes, thank you so much, Thomson. It has been a pleasure having you here. We wish you all the best for your Pioneer Awards. Hope that we have good news and you do win. And then if you do share about that as well. We like to also thank Curtin University Malaysia for putting together that 2.5 minutes video. That was pretty fun. So we had a good time doing that. Thank you so much. The person who did this was Arthur. Thank you so much, Arthur. You were spectacular. So thank you so much, all of you, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.